Welcome to MedShark Insider with Bill Fukui, your expert host on all things medical marketing and SEO.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of MedShark Insider. I really have a treat for practices today, particularly because we're going to be talking about what is the top of mind of every practice today, and what we're finding when I'm going to, meetings and conventions. AI is absolutely at the top of everybody's list of what they can do, how they can leverage it. It's kind of the new frontier. So actually, I have with me a provider, Dr. Alberico Sessa. He's a founder of Sarasota Surgical Arts. He is a board certified plastic surgeon, and I'm going to just give him an opportunity to kind of share a little bit about his practice, but also kind of how he got into doing some AI uh, strategies in his practice and leveraging some technology to help build his practice and really see some astounding results. So, welcome, Dr. Sessa. How are you today?
Doing well. Thanks for having me, Bill. It's a pleasure to enjoyed meeting you at the conference that we met at, and I look forward to talking about this exciting project.
Yeah. So, speaking of the conference, we don't have a long history. We actually got introduced because we were both on a panel, and one of the other speakers said that what you were doing was so important. He was going to give up half of his talk just to have you come up. I thought that was amazing. I thought
Yeah,
that was amazing.
he kind of surprised me with that, but it was really, really quite fortuitous the way it happened because I was really looking for a way that I can showcase what I had been working on for the last year. And there really wasn't a way that I could showcase it and show it to my fellow colleagues. And
Mhm.
I put out this email kind of telling everyone what I was doing, and he called me up and he's like, "Hey, look, I have multiple hours that I'm going to be presenting," and he's like, "This is amazing." He's like, "Would you like to take half of my presentation?" So I was like, "Wow!" I was like, "Man, this is perfect." So
Yeah.
so I'm glad we had a chance to meet, and but at
Yeah.
the yeah.
So let me just ask, give us and even me a little bit of background on your practice. You're obviously an established practice out in a really competitive, Florida marketplace. Give me a little bit of background on your practice, kind of what you were doing prior to doing anything with AI, and kind of what were you seeing in your practice?
So I've been practicing now strictly cosmetic surgery for the last 19 years
Mhm.
in Sarasota at one location. I currently have an associate. I have a full spectrum of services that we offer, both surgical and non-surgical. And I've always been very interested in marketing, and I find it fascinating how you can sort of tell your story, and the person who tells their story best is really the winner.
Yeah.
And um, and I've always been frustrated because there are so many blocks when you can have a great website, you can have a social media presence, and there's still not guaranteed that people are going to find you and be able to understand your particular story.
Hmm.
So the impetus to this project, this AI Med Consult uh, uh, company, was very simple. So about 2 years ago, I had this patient, and I was right in the middle of kind of being really frustrated. As a practitioner, you go through these kind of ups and downs of frustrations, and exuberance when something succeeds, and then failure, and then exuberance, and it's this endless roller coaster. And I realized that I'm spending all this money on Google AdWords. I'm doing all this social media. I have TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. I'm running Facebook ads. I'm getting people to my website. But I've noticed that no matter how good I made it, how many videos I put on the website, how interactive I tried to make it, I still would have a fairly high bounce rate. And I would also have um, a fairly high amount of people that would interact for a reasonable amount of time, but then they would leave with for whatever reason, right? So I started thinking, what can I do to capture people more, keep them on the website, keep them engaged, because this is a very much an impulse purchase, right?
Mm-hmm.
Cosmetic surgery, anything like this. So sometimes people are at home late at night after dinner. They put their kids to bed, bored, can't sleep in the middle of the night, and they get an itch. They want to learn about something. They see your advertisement. They find their way to your website or social media, and then your website organically or through an ad. And now they're on your site. Now what happens, right? What's
Mm-hmm.
going to guarantee that they're going to stay there or just click right out? It's engagement. Right. It's engagement. So chat was the first avenue that I thought, and chat is very, very mediocre. I mean, it's really, the chats are really only there for one thing, and that's to engage the people quickly, get their vital information, and then it really doesn't matter if they stay on or leave or you never hear from them again, because the people running the chats think like, oh, we really increased your business because we had all these chats that we brought you, but really only, you have no idea if they actually led to surgeries. So I thought, well, what's the next obvious stage here? And the next obvious stage is a patient care coordinator, like a real one, a real patient care coordinator, where people come into your office. Like, what happens during the consultative process, right? So I broke that down. During the consultative process, people initially have these sort of generalized questions. After you ask and answer these generalized questions, then you kind of go into a treatment plan. After the treatment plan, you answer more of these generalized questions, and then you show people what a potential surgery may look like, right? So you start setting expectations. So you see before and after pictures. Then comes a time to schedule surgery, and or at least know what this is going to cost, right? Or some sort of combination of that. So that's what I tried to put together. I struggled, as a really busy practice and a busy practitioner. I really didn't have the time to kind of sit down, find an AI programmer, someone that I could actually, that can put this together for me, then kind of train it, then do all the back office business, the necessary CRM stuff that I'll get to in a short while. So I found, just by happenstance, I found someone who I was introduced to, and he had started multiple software companies over the last 10 years. And I pitched this idea to him, told him where I thought there was a real need. And a week later, he got back to me with two AI engineers, an AI engine company that we could use to build it for us, and a way to move forward to actually create a company. So we formed the company, AI Med Consult, and and the rest was kind of history from that point. So initial stages were teaching the chat. So right now you could actually kind of configure and somehow use a chat GPT chat.
Mm-hmm.
But the problem is that chat GPT is pulling off of AI data, right? So think about all this massive cloud of data that's up in the universe of the cloud. And how does it know when your particular patient comes in and asks it a question? How does you know that it's going to answer that question appropriately? You don't.
No, and as you know, there's a lot of information, and even when you use Chat GPT yourself, I find that it's not always accurate. It's
Yeah.
pulling in some stuff, and especially when you're talking about medical services, that's a big concern for practices that are, thinking about how they can leverage AI in their practices. I don't want it to be stuff that's, I want control over. I want more control over.
That's right. That's exactly right. And that's exactly what my concerns were initially, because the AI engine that we had, which was essentially just Chat GPT, I started out by asking it question after question after question, and that I put together. So that's where it starts. That was point A. I got my staff together, I got my patient care coordinators, and I asked them, just list me about 150 to 250 questions that you typically hear on a day-to-day basis.
Mm-hmm.
And I started asking the AI engine, which was Chat GPT essentially,
Right.
all of these questions. And it got almost all of them wrong. But interestingly, it got some part of that question right,
Right.
which
Right.
made it very dangerous,
Mm-hmm.
because it would get something right, so it sounds like it's correct, but
Yeah.
overall it was wrong in
Yeah.
terms of what it was saying. So that was upsetting, because now I realized that I had to totally train the AI engine and the bot to answer chats and the initial conversation properly. So I
Mm-hmm.
went through a period of about 8 months of teaching the AI engine, and putting the information into our cloud to answer very specific questions based on cosmetic plastic surgery and medi spa services. So I trained it on a whole bunch of different services, techniques, procedures, and that took about 8 months. Then we moved, because the next obvious progression of that is from the chat to a consult. So the chat, the computer, the AI actually knows, once it's answered the patient's questions, it automatically knows to move to a consult. So it says, it prompts the patient to ask for a consult. So, and the patient says yes 99% of the time. So it moves them to a consult. Then we find out more information about them, about what particular surgery they're interested in, what particular part of their body they're interested in. It offers them alternative treatments. Then, once they narrow it down to a specific surgery, it will give them some prices for that surgery that are based on my fees. And these are individual customized. So we customize these fees for every practice. So for me in particular, I didn't want to give a direct fee. So I gave a big range of fees.
Sure. That's what I typically recommend.
Yeah. So I gave a range of fees. And then once they have a range of fees, then the AI prompts them, would you like to see some before and after pictures to gauge what this surgery would do for you? So then again, custom. I uploaded all cases from my website, and cases that I wanted to put out there. So it'll show typically 3 to 5 cases of each type of surgery. After that point, the patient is then prompted to, would you like to submit your photos for a free consultation?
Mm-hmm.
So they are prompted to submit photos of their particular body part, which then I directly get. So they go directly to me and my staff. So first thing in the morning, every morning, I get a list of photographs that I treatment plan really quickly. And then my patient care coordinators call these folks back at their convenience to discuss the plan. And that's my free consultation. If they decide they want to come in for a personal consultation, which they're
Right.
entitled to, they're welcome to schedule it at the same time with the AI. But I will charge for that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's kind of the whole process. Now, I'm going to just sort of backtrack for a second. If during this whole process the patient drops off or they lose interest for whatever reason,
Right.
and they say, well, okay, this is interesting, but I'm not really ready to schedule a consult or to take it to the next level right now. I'm just in my early stages of understanding and learning, right?
Right.
So they drop off, and we have a product within the AI Med Consult that is a customer relations software. So it keeps track of the whole conversation that the AI went through with the patient. It it then every couple of days it puts them into like what's called a drip campaign. So it'll send them both a text message as well as an email, um, to their phone number or email address, and send them, not so much constant contact, but just little drips. Hey, this is Dr. Sessa's office. Would you like to, open up the conversation again, or are you ready to schedule a consult? Just kind of further it along. So that goes on for a customizable length of time. You could do it for 3 weeks. You could do it for a month. You could do it for 6 months.
Okay.
We've also made significant changes to the CRM because we realized that the average practice does not have a way to keep track of leads other than to write them down or to keep them in some sort of rudimentary program. So now we've actually have a way that our CRM will keep track of all of these leads that come through your entire practice, not just the AI product. So it'll keep track of everything. So it'll also keep track of if they found us through Google, if they found us through Facebook, if they found us from organic. So it tags the leads so we know, and we can pull up, we know on a month-to-month basis, like, okay, my advertising is working. These people are coming from Google. Interestingly, I know that most of my AI consults are coming from the hours of 9:30 at night and 11:30 p.m. Most of my consultations are occurring from through the AI, from chat all the way through consult and then schedule and sending us photographs, all through the process at a time when most offices are closed.
Yeah.
Because most offices are closed for 12 hours a day. So
Mm-hmm.
this is a way to keep your practice open 24/7.
Interesting. I think the other thing that, and this is kind of on a side note, um, the idea of marketing your practice 24/7, that's that's one of the things that you can actually leverage on your Google business profile,
Yeah.
right? If you have 24/7 where people can reach out and engage with your practice 24/7, you can put that on your Google business profile, right? As opposed to hours. And Google does look at those hours, right? When it looks at what to show up on uh, on the search results, especially in the map listings, it's driven by your Google business profile. And a lot of times
Interesting.
those practices that are open generally tend to can actually show up. It's pretty dynamic. They'll actually show up higher in the search rankings because they are 24/7, right?
Yeah.
As opposed to a Google business profile where their office is closed, right? Google
Yeah.
wants to give people, the more relevant and, useful information. And if a practice is open 24/7, we've seen this, not just in plastic surgery. I've personally seen this in other more competitive industries, like, say, personal injury law. They spend boku bucks on everything, and they have 24/7 operators, call centers.
Yeah.
They are a marketing machine. But we did find that when they do offer 24/7 hours, that helps with them showing up when people are, like you were saying, 9, 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock at night. I do find that interesting because I typically find with most practices, their overall organic traffic tends to be during the day, most of it. But I'm, but I was fascinated when you were telling me that the chat engagements and such, that they were significantly, not just like a small amount, but they were significantly higher in your consults and conversions in those, late hours, like 9 to 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. What kind of numbers are you talking about in terms of, give us an idea, what kind of, when you started doing this, what kind of lead conversions or consults? Give us an idea. Is this one or two? Three or
Yeah. So
four? What are we looking at?
so I've been doing this now for 8 months. So the product has been live 8 months on my website, and um, I've seen a consistent 3,000 to 3,500% return every month on the cost of this software. So the really interesting thing about this software, and I never really, I was thinking about it like, how can I make my marketing more efficient, right? I never really thought about all these things that we're talking about now, all the little intricacies. But this is the one product, like um, you know, you could buy a CRM, or you can institute a CRM into your product, and you can add tools, right?
Hmm.
You could add as many tools as you want, but this is the one tool that will actually bring you money. So it's really quite interesting in terms of that. You know what? It costs me around $1,500 a month for the software,
Hmm.
uh, but it brings me in sometimes $20,000, $30,000
Yeah.
from surgeries,
Right.
a month, per
Yeah.
month, and that's like pretty regular.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting, and in order to get that, all I have to really do is, most of the time, just take about maybe 2 minutes or so, review photographs, give a treatment plan. Then my patient coordinator calls these folks up, and that's it.
Hmm.
Because nowadays people can read about reviews, they can look at your reputation, they can, read about who you are, they'll Google you, they'll research who you are. So it's like, there's no, well, I saw this on the internet and I'm not really sure if this is a legitimate person.
Hmm.
No, like, that's all gone. So as
Yeah.
soon as they get the treatment plan, they already know that I'm legitimate, and I'm, a good, respected provider, and that leads them to have surgery with me. So it's pretty cool.
When I mean, doing early digital marketing. I mean, I've been doing plastic surgery websites and SEO. I think our agency, in 2000, kind of pioneered doing on-site SEO for individual plastic searches. That's 25 years ago. Google
Yeah.
was still in its beta stage, right?
Yeah.
Um, but about 10 years later, we started dabbling in live chat, actually having live agents manage chats that were immediate engagement, right? As
Yeah.
opposed to filling out a form and never knowing when they're going to hear back or who's going to get it. This was more immediate, that you can engage with somebody live. What we found was that without compromising or cannibalizing telephone calls, which were always the most important lead gen,
Yeah.
telephone calls always turn into patients at a much higher rate. We didn't want to sacrifice or cannibalize, phone calls for a chat lead, for instance, right? I
Right.
want phone calls. What we found was that this engagement was happening with demographics that were not filling out forms and not calling, right? It was a segment that wasn't doing anything. That's that bouncing that you're talking about. They come in, check things out, maybe do a few things, and then they bounce out, right? They
Yeah.
leave, right? And that's typically this, I would say back then we called them millennials, right? We called them millennials, and we said, oh well, that generation is, they're flighty, they're young, they're blah. Well, millennials, let's face it, today they are running the country, right? They are
Yeah.
driving our economy. They are the ones coming in and having surgeries done. They are driving the industry. Um, and they are immediate. So the idea with live chat turned into where we would see an increase just by adding that element into a website without adding more traffic. They were converting 25%. They got an increase of about 25 to 40% more leads from their website without doing anything else. We
Yeah.
didn't change anything. We just added that element, and it didn't compromise on telephone leads. It was just a segment that wasn't doing anything, right? So it was like you were saying, it's capturing people and get engaging people. And I think when we talked, what I found interesting was that it was, you were taking, this live chat concept to another level where it's actually much deeper than just getting their name, email, phone number, and somebody from our office is going to get back with you, right? We all know those kind of chat things.
Right.
So for the practices that are looking at doing more online consultations without sucking up your time, right? Their time, and managing this thing, what you're describing is so much more efficient for the average practice, right? So how does the practice be comfortable, because I still think the biggest concern is when they're, implementing this on their website or on their pay-per-click landing pages or other conversion, places. um, how do they know that they can be comfortable with what the chat, with the consultation, what the AI machine is saying, because they're not in all those things. It's just it's kind of that's the scary part for most practices. How
Yeah.
would you address that for them?
So number one, it's not gonna really, during the consultative process, people aren't asking, like, I have diabetes and my blood sugar is really not well controlled, or I had a stroke, 6 months ago. Like, people aren't asking questions like that, right?
Hmm.
They're asking questions like, um, when can I go back to work after my tummy tuck? How much pain am I going to have after a facelift procedure? When am I going to be able to go play tennis with my friends or golf after I have liposuction, right? So these are the kinds of typical questions that you might receive. So I'm not really concerned per se with the accuracy of the information. I mean, the information is very accurate because I went ad nauseum through teaching
Hmm.
Chat GPT um, how to actually answer these questions on our. Now, here's the thing that's critical: we own the AI engine. We're not using Grok or open source AI. This is our AI. So it's not like what I taught the AI is not open source. It's
Hmm.
not, you're not going to get what I taught the AI if you just download some Chat GPT program. So
Hmm.
it's very, I mean, it's copyright protected and all of that, but it's 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 really my project where I taught the AI what to say. As far as medical spas or um, uh, cosmetic plastic surgery procedures, some dermatologic procedures, like I taught it. I taught,
Mm-hmm.
what questions you're going to answer. And honestly, if it doesn't know the answer, it will not have a problem saying, I don't know that, or please speak to your physician about this.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
it will answer questions like that. So it's really only there to answer very specific questions regarding having cosmetic plastic surgery or a med spa procedure, right?
Yeah.
And how you can go about getting that procedure done. But it's really just to keep their engagement, and it's
Mm-hmm.
not, like the AI is not trained to answer a question regarding complex medical histories
Right.
or complex medical scenarios that are going to make your particular surgery difficult. What it
Well, and I think to some degree, we wouldn't even, some of those types of questions, we wouldn't even want our PCCs answering, right?
exactly,
Yeah,
that's
right.
exactly right.
So in that particular case, I wouldn't expect even a live patient care coordinator to be able to manage those. I would always, they would even, you're going to have to talk to Dr. Sessa about that. Can we get you in because you've got some very specific questions. Can we get you
Exactly.
in for the quick, a consultation with him? It'll absolutely, be worth your time, kind of thing. Right.
Absolutely. So this is both, the beauty of this is that it not only captures the attention of the lead, right, as they're on your site, not just leaving and going to someone else's, that
Right.
and they'll just keep doing that until they find a place that will answer their question, right?
Right.
So it keeps their engagement, and also on the tail end of that, for the doctors, not just doctors, it allows them, even if they can become 10% more efficient in the consultative process, because we are
Yes.
only as effective as how many consults we can do,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because there's two things that limit a surgeon. It's how quickly and how many surgeries can you do, it's your time, but it's also how many consults can you do.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the more consults you can see, so like, on a typical consult day, I'll do my regular in-person consults, but I'll also have 3 to 5 photograph consults
Uh-huh.
that I didn't even have to see. So
Mm-hmm.
if even one of those people signs up for surgery, I'm already, way ahead of the game.
Yeah. So you kind of brought up a great point that I found interesting. And I think theoretically it makes sense, is that the more somebody engages online before they actually come in, especially when you're talking about, sharing photographs and answering more detailed types of question than just getting, their contact information. Um, what does that do when those patients come in for the actual, live consultation with you? Do you find that those consultations are shorter, where patients are either, closer to just making the decision and booking? Where does it affect the consult, like you're saying, the time that you're spending with those consultations?
Yeah, so if the consult, does goes through the AI process and submits their photographs, they get a patient care coordinator. I do the treatment plan. My coordinator calls them up, discusses the plan with them. They know exactly what it costs, and they're still like, well, and this is typically for face, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, well, this is my face. I really want to come in and meet the doctor. Okay, no problem. So now that consult goes from me introducing myself, me going through a treatment plan, me going through before and after photos. So a typical 30 to 45-minute consult is now broken down to maybe 5 to 10 minutes.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Wow.
now it becomes, hi, how are you? It's so nice to meet you. What do you think of the plan that I put together for you? And that's it. That's
Yeah.
it. Yeah,
No, so I think they're, even when they come in, they're almost ready just to book their surgical, right?
for sure.
They're
Yeah,
so much closer to that than going through coming in and just starting from ground zero,
yeah,
right? And it's so much more of an efficient use of your time.
certainly. Yeah, and that's what being when medicine is really it particularly cosmetic surgery, plastic surgery, med spa, even dermatology. It's a volume business.
Hmm.
And you have to sort of fall on this line where, okay, how much volume am I comfortable, because every person poses risk. So
Hmm.
how much volume are you particularly comfortable in doing that? And if you're more of the slower provider, this allows you the opportunity to maybe book more surgeries, eat more easily and more efficiently without wasting your time,
Yeah.
because you can take more time with your consults that do want to come in to see
Yeah.
you.
And I think the other thing too is you also somewhat because you're very transparent with the information and even cost, you kind of vet out those ones that really aren't going to turn into anything. If they're
Right.
coming in, you've shared enough where they've kind of elevated themselves. They had to do a little work to kind of get here, right? And if they're still willing to come in knowing all what they now know, they're that much closer to, ultimately just booking surgery.
Yeah, that's very true. Yeah.
Yeah, that I find that fascinating. So, I appreciate all this insight. This is, I'm really excited to see where this goes in terms of, even beyond what you're doing with the AI consults. I think there's, one of the things I was going to ask you um, is there a possibility of the platform actually incorporating, say, information from the practice, individual practice, where they can actually, and I'll just throw out scribing. Scribing is the information that we get when patients are, in consults or in the practice, and we're scribing the notes and everything because it's in your words. Is there a way of possibly capturing some of that kind of information in this chat? Because then it is very, and it can get into a lot more of the questions that maybe deeper questions that go beyond just what you would like what you're normally seeing.
Yeah, so that's exactly what the initial kind of how this platform initially happened was all of those questions that my patient care coordinators were getting throughout the consult, and all the questions and answers that I was getting throughout the consults. That's where all of this information kind of stemmed from.
Oh,
So
okay.
that's what I taught. That's where all this time was spent teaching the AI how to answer question. So I'd ask it a question, it would answer the question. I would go back, teach it how to answer the question, then it would typically answer the question with a mixture of what it said and what I said. So that means it needs to be trained further to get it to use less of cloud-based AI information and more of my information.
Hmm.
So there was this constant process of what the AI wanted to say and what I wanted it to say. And that's why I said earlier, like, there's some products out there right now, like Salesforce has a product called Podium, and there's another couple of platforms that have just popped up that are really just chat GPT. So it's just
Hmm.
that chat, right? So it's one step past, the typical chat that we've seen for the last 20 years that was just pop up. Hey, how you doing? Nice to meet you. I'm so and so. Give me your vital information. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So it's one step past that. But once you start asking it difficult questions or really pointed questions, it immediately drops off and starts hitting you with like crazy stuff from out that it pulls off the
Yeah.
web. Right.
Yeah.
So that's when it becomes dangerous
Yeah.
because it's just pulling stuff off of the internet that it perceives as being important.
Mm-hmm. No, and I think with every provider, they understand whether it's information liability and stuff. They don't want to be saying the wrong things to patients, right?
Right.
Or giving misinformation or the
Right.
wrong information. Obviously, no, this is great. Give our audience an opportunity as we're kind of winding down here. Give them an opportunity. How can they look into this more? What is there a
Yeah.
website? How can they look into this for themselves?
Yep. So it's the website is all, no spaces, med AI med consult, all one word.com. And on there's a lead. You can fill out the lead form. We can call you. Um, I'm also, if any of you would like to reach out to me personally, you're welcome to reach out to me to email me. I'll give my email is so ASESSA underscore 2000 at yahoo.com. So you're welcome to reach out to me with any of your questions if you're a practitioner or you have more medical questions. But if you're interested in learning about AI Med Consult, um, you can just go on the site. There's a phone number to call. You can reach out. One of our salespeople will reach out to you, and we typically do like a 2 or 3 week free trial where you
Oh,
can
okay.
just trial it
That's
on your
great.
site and see. We'll give you a link, and you could ask it all kinds of questions and see if there's procedures that you perform that I didn't train it. Like we just onboarded a cosmetic gynecologist a couple of weeks ago. So we had to teach the AI about all of these cosmetic gyne procedures. So he was asking it questions and he didn't like the way it answered them. So we went back and trained the AI just for him.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
No, and I think, and actually, I have somebody in mind that I'd like for them to try it. He is very big in awake plastic surgery, in a lot of
Yeah.
awake surgeries and stuff like that. And
Sure.
so, yeah, I'd like for him to be able to maybe give his, because he's a leading surgeon that really has been doing this for quite some time. So I'd like for him to be able to leverage this. So if that's something that you guys can work out, that'd be great.
Yeah, certainly. Love to. If he wants to reach directly out to me, I'm happy to talk to him. Or if he wants to
Yeah,
just go right to AI Med Consult and talk with Jim Vaughn, the CEO, he can do that as well.
that sounds great. That sounds great. Well, Dr. Sessa, I appreciate all of your time and insights and taking away on this lovely Friday afternoon.
No
Thank you
worries.
again for all of your time.
Yeah, it's very exciting. I love talking about this. I'm really enthusiastic about it. So, always happy to discuss. Or if you have any other questions, you're always
Yeah.
welcome to reach out. Thanks.
Yeah, you bet. And maybe because this is such an evolving kind of thing, and it happens, like you said, you've been doing this in your practice for about 8 months, 9 months. I know things are going to change,
Oh
right?
yeah,
Consumers change, this changes. I'd like to maybe see if we could maybe reschedule something kind of in 6 months. Kind of
yeah.
what's happened in the last 6 months, because I'm pretty sure what we're going to be talking about in 6 months, it's going to be some new stuff.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's constant. On a
Yeah.
week to week basis. We're teaching the AI new stuff, new techniques, new procedures, new devices. It's constantly evolving, constant.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll look forward to that. So I'm going to be touching base with you here. I'm going to put it on my calendar, but let's schedule something in about 4 to 6 months, and we'll kind of get updated on kind of the new things.
You bet. Have a great weekend. Thanks.
You
Take
betcha.
care.
Take care.
Thanks for joining us for the MedShark Insider with Bill Fukui. Join us next week for another dive into all things medical marketing. All episodes can be streamed at www.medsharkdigital.com/medshark-insider.